Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Knowledge at Noon. My name is Jonathan Henry, and I am your host for today. We are Knowledge at Noon. We're doing the AI imperative, 4 capabilities every organization needs right now. And so, as we get started, I'd like to talk about our guest today, Dr. Frederick Lemieux. He is a professor of the practice for you'll see here, several of our MPS or Master of Professional Studies programs here within Applied Intelligence, Cybersecurity Risk Management. But in addition, in the other ones here, he is instructor within our AI area certificates. Outside of Georgetown, Dr. Lemieux's research interests encompass intelligence, analysis, national security, homeland security policy, and cybersecurity risk management. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is bring in Dr. Lemieux here. And so let me grab him and add a pin. So thank you so much for coming in today. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So welcome to Knowledge at Noon. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand it off to you. You have a great presentation today, looking over some of our areas of AI interest within our certificates as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. I know it's midday and most of you probably are at work or during a lunch break, so I really appreciate that. Like Jonathan mentioned, my name is Frederick Lemieux. I've been 10 years here at Georgetown University. I've been involved. Like I like to picture like my work at the intersection of security, technology, and intelligence. And working at this intersection, intelligence in the sense that it's not just like national security intelligence, it could be also business intelligence, it could be cyber intelligence. And that gives me, if you want, a interesting perspective on how organizations are evolving around technology, how they integrate technology, how they use technology. Like from an intelligence perspective, like one of the things that I see a lot is the use of AI to support intelligence analysis, but not just the analysis itself, but it's also like helping to structure their core knowledge that they will be using for their analysis, how to like extract meaning of different type of source, unstructured and structured data source, and all those. So that is what's going on. I see the same thing, like for example in the cyber realm, where AI is getting used more and more. And one of the signal that the cyber sector sent us on the use of AI is that AI is not yet replacing any jobs, in any people. It kind of like fill the gaps. Like, cybersecurity is one of the industry that has a lot of position being opened, and they are trying to fill them. And it's very difficult. Like expertise and talents are trickling out of universities. So there's not enough people studying cybersecurity to fill those jobs. So what we saw, for example, in cyber, it's an explosion of the use of AI from software, for example, like intrusion detections and all those kind of things, to smart dashboard for cybersecurity professional to monitor networks and information systems, to incident response automation, where human is still in the loop, but a lot of the configuration to respond to an intrusion or to a breach is kind of like played out by a series of decisions that could be made. And then the human will probably authorize and having like a sorts of like playbook being offered by AI, automated playbook. and you can go on and on. Like industry also, we see that a lot. I work with like, because we share ideas, we talk on a regular basis about different change in the industry and technology. So I often interact with large tech companies, looking at adoption rates and what are the bottlenecks and the problems that are happening in the private sector in terms of adoption, but also in the public sector as well. So there's many things are happening around AI, and I'm sure that most of you have focused on like LLM. This is what has been the most democratized in terms of access in using AI. But AI is around for longer than that, right? So it didn't start with the ChatGPT in November of 2022. It existed way before that. Autonomous system exists in many industries. From defense to manufacturers and all those kinds of things. So AI has been around for a while. Now, things have been changing, and, organizations, private sector, public sector, try to make sense of how those tools can help them to be more performant and what is required. So some of the things that I want to, my presentation tried to achieve two objectives. First of all, I want to discuss some of the things that are important now for organization to consider when adopting, like why adopting AI, right? And I will talk about AI much more into its democratized approach. So large language model, and the deployment of, agents in organization. So that's one thing that I want to talk. The other thing is I am, of course, speaking on behalf of what we're doing here at Georgetown. So I'm trying to be balanced between informative, but also marketing. So you have to stay with me in the sense that, I'm talking about things that we're also developing to address. For example, one of the big gap that we're seeing for AI adoption and successful deployment is talent. It's people that know AI, that know how to use AI. So I'm not saying that the four imperatives that I want to talk about today they are finite. They are not. There's probably 6, 7, 8, 9 imperatives for AI adoption. I want to acknowledge that. One of the things that it's important, for successful AI adoption and deployment is we talked about, workforce readiness. That's the part that Georgetown tried to play in that. That's why we rolled out a master's in AI management, which is super successful. I was surprised. Like I said, people seems to be a little bit skeptical about AI and so on. The rush through that master's was really, impressive. I was happy because that means that we nail, some of the, preoccupation and answers that people are looking for career development, but also for, industry development. So that's one thing. The other thing is on the non-credit side, we worked on developing something shorter, right? Something that is more centered around short-term skill development, upskilling, reskilling some of the workforce. So that's the kind of things that we're trying, and that's how I will kind of balance. We kind of chose some areas where we're developing those certificates. In that we have market studies that are showing us that those are kind of imperatives that the industry is looking for people talented in. Now, if you're here, it's clearly because you're interested in AI, because you want to know more about AI, you want to know more how it applies to workplace and things like that. That's good. But in general, I would say that you have to pay attention to AI. It's not just a feature. It's not just the next level of bells and whistles. It is changing the way we work. Now, for what I know, I can even notice that it's changing the way people talk. people are, I don't know if you noticed that, but now that I'm in meetings, I often see like people almost talking like an AI output. I said, like, what the heck is going on? I never heard that. Like, I read those words, like out of an AI out, but it really changed, how we interact. Think about it. Like, if you think about LLM, I mean, one of the things that is, like paramount when you interact with a chatbot in an LLM system is how you communicate with it, right? If you are asking broad question, you would have like kind of like broad answer. You have to be specific. You have to articulate what you're looking for, what you're trying to know, what you're trying to learn. And that's something that we were not used up to recently to navigate to use. I mean, we were the Google generation. Like you want to know something, 3-4 keywords, that's it, and then Google will come up with the options, and then you scroll and you scroll and you scroll, and then you find something that is the close. That's how we learn how to interact or talk or communicate with technology. And now that has changed tremendously with LLM, where details and context and role playing and constraints is now more important than ever if you want to have faster results, or if you want to get to the outcome that you want faster, and with less noise and less mistakes and less hallucination and that kind of things. So it's changing us, and you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention because I was looking at numbers with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I was shocked. They were starting to look at back to 2023, 2024, and they were comparing job positions being advertised across different platforms for job search. And the number was about like 634,000 job posting, similar job posting between year to year, 23 to 24 were modified to include skill sets in AI. Like in 2023, those 600,000 plus jobs were not having any AI in their qualification and their experience or something, a requirement. And now they have it. I'm not talking about job on AI. I'm talking about, oh, you're a project manager, you must have AI knowledge or skills, or you are a whatever, you need to have like some sort of certain level of AI. A little bit like if you're working in an office, you need to know how to use Microsoft products, right? So I know that today it's not a skill. It's kind of like taking for granted. But if you go back 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it was something you were putting on your resume, right? So that's the kind of things that are changing right now in the workplace, and also in the expectation from the workforce, the type of talents, the type of skill set that we're looking. So what I'm saying is I'm bringing that to the next level, like how, for example, AI could really help you or your organization to perform better, to adapt better to situations. I'm not trying to paint too much of a rosy situation. I'm well aware of the downturns and the pitfalls and downsides of using AI and so on. Get it totally. But it doesn't mean that it can still optimize. It can still enhance what you're doing. I think that the enhancement is probably the key word moving forward for this presentation. Like, how can you enhance what your organization is doing? Looking at 4 different lenses of things you could be implementing. So let me share my screen. That was a long preamble. I'm sorry. I just wanted to, give a backdrop and making sure that you knew where I was coming from, and I wanted to make some of the assumptions explicit before I start my presentation. So let me share my screen right now and start my presentations. So here it's a kind of like some statistics that I wanted to share with you in terms of an inflection point. Right now, 72% of enterprise now mandate AI governance framework. They are see it coming. They have adopted sometimes small project related to AI. And one of the first things that they want to do is how you manage that technology. Governance means basically like how do you manage implementation, maintenance, the use of that technology. Sometimes it goes with the risks, right? It's under the governance. Sometimes it goes with ethics issues. Sometimes it goes with like privacy of data and so on and so forth. So there's many dimensions related to the management of those technology. And this is where, for example, enterprise now are moving more and more into that knowledge and that understanding. How do you implement AI governance framework for your use, for your specific need, right? So it's like there's plenty of AI governance framework out there. They are giving you like a starting point, but like they're not cookie cutters. Like you need to adapt that to your organization and what you're doing and the way you're using AI to make sure that you don't expose yourself to risks. Could be security risk, could be operational risk, could be strategic risk, could be ethical and legal risks. So AI is a good technology, but like any technology, you have to think about, like how you will manage and use that safely, right? So that's one thing. Then we see, for example, $4.1 trillion projected in global AI market by 2030. That's massive. It's massive because it kind of like transcends so many sectors. Like I would say right now and in the Western world, at least, but I would include also many Asian countries have adopted AI at sometimes a faster pace that we did here in the United States. And so they have developed already those markets. And again, they are across industry verticals, right? That statistics is looking at different aspects, including the infrastructure that you need in terms of like supporting the deployment and the adoption of AI in society. Giving you an example, Saudi Arabia wants to have is data centers in France. Do you know why? Nobody wants to venture on why? No. The reason is energy. France has an abundance and a very, very, very specialized, I would say, industry of nuclear energy, right? So Énergie de France is a leading organization in nuclear energy, in nuclear power plant and infrastructure. And one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia wants to build its data centers there, it's because they can connect to that particular type of energy and power their data center. Again, it's planning for that. Many things can happen before that, but that's the idea behind it. Data is energy consumption, a high energy consumption. AI is a high energy consumption technology because of the data churn, the computing power, and everything. So that's a concern. But my point is, like, there's solutions, and those solutions are impacting different markets. And for example, France will for certain countries that wants to double down and deploy, if you want, those data centers and those AI technology can deliver on certain support system for energy, for example, with nuclear energy. 85% of AI projects fail to reach production deployment. So that's another reality. MIT came with numbers higher than that, in the low 90%. There's many reasons for that, that are related to AI strategy, AI innovation, the implementation phase as well. A lot of organization don't know very well AI capability, what AI can do, it cannot do, and therefore assign AI to solve problems that are misaligned with AI capability. So it's often a problem there that it's important to determine right off the bat. So defining your problem correctly, being able to understand what your expectations versus what the technology can deliver is important as well. Alignment of ROI with what AI can deliver is also important. So you have all those kinds of considerations that will come into play to define what success look like when you are deploying and adopting AI. So, and that's why also in a certain level, organization pull out of some project or AI programs that they want to pursue because, they're kind of seeing like, oh, wow, our expectations versus the technology capabilities kind of like misaligned, or we did not define the problem correctly. So what we're trying to do with the AI kind of like missed the point. So those are the kinds of things that often lead to failure in adopting AI. From a university standpoint, like when ChatGPT came out, it's not just at Georgetown, it was across the board. The panic was in the house. Like, oh my God, students can write stuff without us knowing for sure if it's them. And it was kind of like the table were turned, right? In terms of like for a long time, the higher education was kind of like in control of the tools for teaching and learning. And now the tables are turned, and now like the students are in control of the tools for teaching and learning because they can use that to write papers and things like that. So that was the initial reactions, and it was like that for a long time. It's still like that today. Like we see it still. But the other side is like, well, you can really leverage AI for a different type of learning, right? So maybe before you were teaching students to write critically, and now you have to train students to read critically. I'm saying that reading critically, it's not for nothing. I will throw another statistics to you again, but depending on the industry, if you go on the internet, depending on which verticals, on which subject matter you're looking at, 50 to 74% of the content that exists on internet has not been produced by human beings. It's been produced by machine, right? If you look, for example, to even many media news reports, they are not written anymore by journalists. They have drafts that are written by AI, and then the journalist goes over it and correct anything that they have to be corrected, and so on, and it's get out. I'm not saying that by saying that there's content that is not written by us, I'm not saying that human is not verifying that, but I'm saying that more and more, it's not the writing critically that is starting to be important. It's much more the reading critically that it's becoming important. A way to adapt that in some of our courses here at the university is that to ask students to use AI to perform some sort of exercise, but that exercise is much more like because you saw my background. I operate master's programs level, so I'm much more like teaching students to lead something. Like that's what the master's should yield you as a job, like something in the mid-level, upper-level management. That's what master's prepares you for, like problem solving, like a strategic thinking and those kinds of things. More and more AI can do that. So now how do we turn the table and make our students still relevant, but using AI? And now we're using AI in our classroom where our students play the senior whatever kind of role, depending on the course. And then we'll let them use AI as they are supervising a junior. And then they work with the junior, they task the junior is there as their helper, right? And they're training the junior. Like all those words that I'm using are true, like when you work with a model, right? So they do all that, and then at the end, the work of the student is to like now assess, like the accuracy, assess the, like the relevance, assess if your junior is addressing the key contents that you've learned in this course. And now they go back to the principles, the concept, and they have to show us how they are becoming like almost like an evaluator of what AI is doing for a particular task in a particular domain or under a particular subject. And I think this is where we should be moving, like in terms of developing talents, developing the workforce. It's much toward that. And this is why and how, if people know exactly what AI can do, they will understand how they can use AI better. And those projects that are failing will start to shrink in terms of percentage. I think this is how you get there. Not because it's super important to adopt AI. It's because AI will become a tool that will be necessary. It is right now necessary in fields where they don't have enough people to fill the jobs. They use AI. They have no choice, or they go out of business. So they have to do that. So, and then we see also in other fields and occupations that people apply less. It's difficult to retain employees and so on and so forth. So that's a new reality where being able to use AI to complement what you're doing or help you with, like positions that are not getting filled, could really make a difference. So forefront challenge, there's one challenge in legal exposure. There is one challenge in technical complexity. There is a challenge in terms of workforce stagnation, right? So that's one of the problems that we see. And I would say for many, many organizations nowadays, it's strategic blindness. When I'm saying strategic blindness here, I'm referring, it doesn't matter if you are a government entity or a private sector organization, things are moving faster. You like it or not, it's moving faster. Like, one day we're at war, the other day we're not at war. One day, like there is free trade. The other day there's no free trade. Things are changing fast. They have like sometimes very deep implications. They look foreign, but they happen to impact you. They impact you. Maybe it's not impacting directly your clients or your constituents, but the supplier we're working with, they are impacted and then therefore impact you. So strategic blindness is also another area that is right now, especially in nowadays with, like everything that is happening domestically, but also internationally with the geopolitical and like situation where like tariffs or no tariffs and certain region of the world are like asking, are tightening up some regulations and here we don't. And then how does that mean for doing business with that region when you're not hold to the same standards or the same expectations? And how do you deal with that? How do you convert, processes and delivery so it abides by that, right? So those kinds of like uncertainty, complexity, like makes business and like the future of what the organization might be doing sometimes like difficult to predict, and margins difficult to deal with, like up and downs all the time. So that's the world in which we're living. That's it's also the technical complexity we have to deal with when we're thinking about adopting new technology to survive that kind of like, changing world. A lot of legal exposure is related to that. And very often a workforce that is not ready to, or up to the challenge because ill prepared. There's not that money like, oh yeah, you can right now learn how to use AI, but often those trainings are packaged and put in beneath, if you want, a specific company, like, oh yeah, I got trained on LLM by OpenAI or by Anthropic. Oh, I've been trained on data structuring and data, architecture and so on and so forth. Yeah, that was by Google or that was by Microsoft. So things are getting like kind of siloed, and they are recognized in but to a certain extent, like Like, what is worth a company that is looking for an employee that never received training for this from SaaS or from whatever, but they have like training for Microsoft? It could be relevant, but it's not necessarily what you're using and how you're dealing with things like with Oracle or something system. So they come not necessarily well prepared. So, and that's the problem right now of some of the training workforce development issues. That is too siloed, too specialized, and too close to a technology brand or a company brand. So make it difficult to be relevant everywhere. So one of the things that I want to discuss with you in terms of like leading, if you want, AI capability into organization, it's to look into governance and compliance. Look how agentic AI can help your organization. How you can leverage generative AI to increase productivity, and how you can also leverage AI to help you for making strategic decision throughout your different aspect of your organization. And here, this is where there's convergence of what I think is important right now to deploy and understand in terms of AI, how AI can benefit an organization. But of course, you have to be conscious, and I'm just being open here, that this also fits what we are offering, because that's what we understand about what the market needs, what the market wants, what our organization are asking for. So if we look at the AI governance and compliance, you would say like, oh my God, we are in the United States. There's no AI laws or regulations. What are you talking about? Yep, fair game. That's true. There's no federal specific AI regulation, but there is a plethora of regulation that at its inroads in AI use. It could be data protection. It could be data privacy. It could be at the federal level throughout the crumbs that are left in the different like FERPA, HIPAA, name all those like federal laws that are regulating some of the financial sector, healthcare sector, education sector. They are centered around data, but AI runs on data, and then it will impact the way you are using AI within your industry vertical. So it's true on one hand, there's no specific, like wall to wall, coast to coast US AI laws. They are in the making. They are thinking about bills and all those kinds of things. There's executive orders, right? We saw them. There's an AI strategy. We saw it. But there's no regulation per se on AI itself in the United States. But there's a plethora of, like AI at the state, not AI related laws at the state level, at the federal level that regulates different component of AI. So something to think about. NIST has also, delivered a few years ago an AI risk management framework to help organizations to manage and mitigate risk related to adoption of AI. So those are the kinds of things that, like kind of a regulatory landscape that exists. Like we are offering a certificate in that help to, assess risk with AI and mitigate, mitigation frameworks. On many levels, like there's the operational level, right, of using AI. What kind of risk do you have in your operations? What kind of risk do you have strategically, right? What are the, for example, ethical issues that you can face in terms of like deploying AI solutions? What are the legal, right, like the use of data? Do you have consent from, like some of the personal identifiers data that is included in training your models and so on? Do you know what your models have been trained with? That kind of stuff. Do you know how to conduct audit, for readiness and documentation? So all those kinds of things are related to AI governance and compliance. Some industry will be more demanding on that. I'm thinking about the use of AI in healthcare. Like, that right now AI is very much leveraged in healthcare for, like diagnosis, differential diagnosis, looking at, for example, different kind of radiology task. And now there's plenty of surgeon, knee surgery, ankle surgery that would not conduct a surgery without a robot, the robot that is powered by AI. It has so many good outcome using that robot to assist a surgeon that now they don't want to go without a robot. It has impact on surgery outcome, recovery time, return of patients because the surgery has not yield the success it was supposed to yield, and all those kinds of things. So it's evolving, and those sectors have like something very rigid and strict regulation around the use of technology and data and so on. So you got to be aware of that. Okay, when you deploy AI, it's super important, and it will certainly decrease the risk you're facing. Agentic AI, I would say, I call that the next frontier for most of the organization, but it's really right now. It's really happening right now. I see organization deploying agentic AI to help them to, automate workflows, different kind of tasks. Multiple agents that are working together to, automate, for example, contracts, automate, for example, the processing of procurements, and all those kinds of things. Help to coordinate, for example, activities, task distribution of resources on a network. We see more and more human agent collaboration framework being developed and being implemented to guide, for example, where humans should be involved, where machine is okay. Again, often related to governance framework, often related to risk framework. And also like the possibility to deploy that at scale, right? So we see industries that, organizations that deploy that across the different segments of their activity, like could be in marketing, could be in the production and shipment, it could be in so on and so forth. And again, one of the reasons why we see that, especially being more popular in some industry than others, it's often because of the lack of a workforce. People applying on jobs, people doing that. And what also organizations are slowly noticing is that AI brings also a certain level of certainty in terms of like expectation on projections and so on and so on. At least from the level of like, what are we capable of pushing out, right? And making sure that we can maintain that pace. And of course, like knowing that was, happening in the industry, we started to develop, and now we are offering a certificate in Agentic AI, where students learn how to develop agent architecture, design pattern, learn some tools and functions, memory, reasoning, and planning systems, and also implement safety guardrails and monitoring. In my world, when I look at agentic AI, you look at the war right now, agentic AI is full throttle, across different, segment of the military and the intelligence community in terms of like gathering, analyzing information in real time. Doesn't mean that doesn't make any mistakes. It did mistakes, often because, the information was old, or it was not verified by a human. So there's this notion of having a human in the loop. But, for example, AI for targeting right now is composed of agentic AI. So multiple agents working together to verify, collect information, analyze, situate the target, confirm the location, assign that to an asset, and then, propose a series of a course of action to a commander that makes decision on the targeting and the missions. So those are the things that are happening like right now, and it's in full display for us to see. What I'm talking about, the defense sector, is also happening in many manufacturing sector or different industries where agentic AI is being implemented. I will not name the company, but I work with them very often, and that's what they're doing. I mean, they are an AI integrator as a company, and they have integrated in their own workflow different agents, so Agentic AI, to help them to manage, for example, projects, to manage how to apply on government RFP, and those kinds of things. So it's very impressive. I mean, and again, like it's moving in that direction. Generative AI to augment team productivity. So it's really fun, because right now, as we speak, while I'm with you, I'm running a 1 week long activity in my master's program. And it's a course that students from the AI master program, the cyber master program, and the intelligence master program can take. And what we're doing right now is we're looking at, working on a project that I will come back to in pillar 3 and pillar 4 about strategic decision making. But what we're doing right now is we're using AI. So they work in team, but the workload is phenomenal. Like we made it that way. Like we made it like try to mimic what would happen in real life if they had to deal with situations that we are giving them. So they're working in team, and each team has a mandate, has a mission, something to accomplish. They have a domain, a specific domain that they are working on. And so they have to identify like some important pillars of activity or dimensions to their domain. And then they were like coming back and said, oh my God, I have like 7 pillars. We're only 2 in the team. I said like, okay, take 1 pillar, give your teammate another pillar. And if you have 7 pillar, like create 5 agents that will be working on each pillar. How I do that? Let me show you how to do that. And then create like a pillar 3 is called agent something. Pillar 4 is called agent something. And what you do is you equip that agent with all the knowledge that the agent need to execute their task. That knowledge can come from core definitions to examples of applications and so on and so forth. And then when you put that agents to task and you ask it question and you task it with something, then it has this kind of like repository of core definitions and so on, and knows better what a generic AI system would have to do. And they are right now discovering the power of that, and they are like whoa. and then they can interact with that, and then they can guide those agents through the workflow and preparing all those kinds of things. So a couple of things here, outside of this example that I'm currently running for my programs. Like if we look at the predictive paradox, so AI investment up to 40%. Productivity gains uneven. So what we have, if you have like tool adoptions and you do certain investment, you might deal with the productivity gain that is uneven, because sometimes those workflows are not really well developed. Those agents are not really well trained. Sometimes the adoption of those tools are not clear or are not across the board. People are not trained well enough to implement them. So there's also, because of the adoption, sometimes some people do use them, some people don't. So now the question is, if you use them as a team implementation, and if you, you can use, for example, you don't have to replace human or replace people. You can have like an AI agent that is a fusion center, right? So you have like different team members that are working on different dimensions of a problem or a unit in your organization. And the AI can help putting things together and help you to identify where you have gaps, where someone is falling behind and might need a little bit because the workload is too high and might probably need to reallocate some resources and things like that. So like that, you can increase the productivity of your team. You can increase the level of collaboration and integration into your team, and you can help your team to identify, I would say, quicker some of the gaps that they have in terms of like the output that they should, or the outcome that they should be producing or yielding. So there's also a problem often of measurement gaps and ROI uncertainty when you deploy those kind of like AI agents because of all the reasons that I said. So how we try to address that, as like some of the things that students are learning, how we try to fill those gaps in terms of like preparedness, is that we have a certificate in Agentic AI, and to address those kinds of limitations that I just named, of like productivity is uneven, the workflow and the tool adoption is uneven, like a few people using it versus like if you build teams around it. So what we're doing here is, in the certificate, is we teach students how to do prompt engineering. It's the base. You need that, how to talk and how to prepare your AI, how to attribute your AI some task and some activities. How to develop workflow automation with LLMs. How do you integrate AI at the team level? What kind of strategies you can use? How you can measure ROI? Like what should be your expectations? What you should be looking for as an improvement or as a productivity enhancement, so to speak. And then the last pillar is AI scenarios for strategic decision making. So I was talking in my preamble that like we're living in a context of more complexity, more uncertainty. It's not just because of politics; it's also because of economics. It's the supply chain. Everything seems to cascade all the time. We had COVID supply chain issue. Then COVID is gone. Consumption goes through the roof. Another supply chain issue. Then the war breaks out. Another supply chain issue. Then the tariffs came up. Another supply chain. Like just on the supply chain perspective, I mean, there's so much fluctuation, volatility, change. Now with the price of oil and energy, that everything goes up and everything will impact your business, your employees, the product you're doing, the suppliers you're working with. So the idea it's really to understand how you can leverage AI to a certain level to kind of like try to separate the noise from the signals, the things that you should be really paying attention to make decisions. And so we created a certificate around there, around that particular area. It's a little bit more niche than the other ones because it's much more like based on planning. How do you strategically plan accurately? And we're not in the prediction kind of world. We're much more saying like, how could you foresee what is probably coming up in a time window of 6 months, a year, in terms of impacting your activities and your business, and being able to make all the right decisions that you may need. And so, you could go to wargaming, red teaming, developing collections. So one of the things that our students are learning is like you're seeing the situation evolving, and you are like someone that's in charge of I don't know, a division, a unit, or something like that, and you said like, what keeps me up at night is this. Well, you could game it. So what you could do is like let's work with a question of like what if this thing happened, right? Okay, so and it's your placeholder. Then using AI, and you could do that with a team, using AI and the monstrous amount of information available to you, you would be able probably to better game and faster and not spend weeks on that, on what are the possible pathways to that nightmare scenario you don't want to see happening. And that with those pathways, you will be able to identify what are the pivot points. And those pivot points will probably represent points where you can make a decision to mitigate or avoid the situation you don't want to be in. And we're doing that right now with students. That's what they're doing this week, working on different scenarios, baseline scenarios, worst case scenarios, best case scenarios. And then they will be working today on what if, right? So sometime like much more like like you change a data, like what if this situation happened? How are we detecting that? How are we like adapting and making sure that that possible future doesn't happen? So those are the kinds of things we are working. You could do also wildcard or extreme futures just to prepare you. The idea in this particular certificate is it's not prediction; it's strategic preparedness. So if something is kind of like gearing up toward a certain direction, you are equipped to be preparing yourself to make decisions and maybe try to deviate the ship to go into that direction as you see it coming. So awareness, preparedness, resilience are kind of like the key outcome of those kinds of things that we're doing with that certificates. So, like if we want to look at why those things are imperatives, it's for sure, like you need how to govern AI, right? You need to know how to build and deploy AI solutions. You need to know how to use those AI technology to optimize the work and the team productivity. And finally, using AI to strategize for a near future, not a far future, but a near future, how you can adapt to undesirable situation or scenarios. So why now? Regulations are changing. If it's not on AI directly, it's on, like different level of data privacy, data security. Technology is evolving rapidly. It yields results. It gets better. I don't know if you are using AI and LLMs, but if you compare between November of 2022 capability and this month's capability, it's day and night. Like it evolved rapidly, and technology can yield so much more in terms of converging some different ecosystems that works separately but could work together. So there's this aspect. Workforce as well. Try to fill up that skill gap. Like I said, like AI is here to stay. It's not a hype. It's not like blockchain where we say like, we see a few applications, but So that was a kind of a hype for what the technology can really do and how it could be integrated. AI is different. I mean, most of us right now start to use it just to like a big fancy Google, but it could be way it's capable of more. I'm almost done here. So the last one is strategy, how to understand like ways and pathways for your organization. Oh yeah, and that's it. That's what we have in terms of offering. Now I know it doesn't leave a lot of time for questions. I'm sorry, but I am available for the 6-ish next minutes to answer any questions.
Yeah. So with that, thank you so much. Really appreciate all the time and effort here on this, and the expertise as well. This is fantastic. So with that being said, as you heard Dr. Lemieux say, let's get some questions in. We got a few minutes left. We can answer whatever we got time for here. Here, let's just go to the first one. Hillary wants to know, do you recommend an order if we want to take all of them, all 4 of the certificates?
Yeah, I would say governance first, right? So understand how to use it, and manage the technology and use the technology and understand, demystify the technology and so on. I think that AI governance and compliance would be one of your first. Now it depends where you stand in terms of your role in the organization. I would say, if you learn how to deploy agentic AI, you will be able now to move into optimizing teams, using that kind of solutions to work. And then your last one would be certainly the strategy, right? It's like how to strategize, but that would be the order that I would probably pursue my education.
Great. Let's see. Let's go back. This was very beginning of the presentation, just to make sure we get to it. And I think you covered it, but let's reiterate it. Julio asks, what do you see as the main reasons AI projects fail to make it from the pilot to production?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, right? I think that first of all, the way that the problem is defined and the AI capability often doesn't really match. And it's a condition of like people being aware and being capable of understanding the technology. The other things is often like stakeholders engagement, right? When you are, because this technology is for someone, it's either for clients, for your employees, and then this often is lacking of communication, lacking of like making the user understand what's in it for them. The other aspect of it is I would say like lack of connections with the ROI and the project itself. Like high expectation, low return, then this is where people pull out, right? And I think that needs to be corrected. And there's other things like, for example, like data readiness. Data readiness could be super expensive. If you don't know where your data is, how it is structured, and what kind of work it needs to be architect to use that for a solution, you can lose quite a bit of time, and that could delay quite a bit the implementation of your project and be a deterrent into adopting AI. Those are the things that I would consider.
Okay, great. Yeah. Let's see if we can get a few more in here. Start with Seth. Wants to know, is it too early to know where the AI management students are heading? Or are they already a few companies emerging as common destinations or pipelines, again, for AI management students?
Yeah, for AI management, I would say like there is so many demands because there's like many companies that right now start, right? You see, for example, that the federal government says like, yeah, we want to work with big tech, but more and more certain agency, certain department don't want that because it's not agile enough. And they work more and more with startups and like smaller companies that can adapt rapidly and customize rapidly what they have to offer. And that is more and more an area where students are getting hired. And also in government, like I do believe that each department or each government agencies must have a AI officer or something like that. So those are kind of like major change that are happening across the board.
Okay, great. I think we can fit maybe two more in here.
All right.
Zena wants to know, what AI certs do you recommend for somebody in healthcare law field?
I would say AI governance and compliance for sure. When I look to the class composition each time we teach it, I don't teach that by myself. I'm teaching that with Dr. Dan Spar. We see that the composition is lawyers, mid-level managers, people that are working in healthcare, law firms. We're looking at people that are also in manufacturing. So so those are the kind of and more, right? But we see those kinds of concentrate. So definitively, like AI governance and compliance would be something for you. Understanding the technology, understanding how to manage it from different perspectives and different components of the technology, but also how to reduce risk and how to have like a sound strategy for deploying.
Okay, and for our last one, I think the answer might be quite short for this one, but
I will try to make it short. I know I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's no problem. Jared wants to know, for prospective students, what are the initial tools or programs we should familiarize ourselves with before starting?
Before starting all that, I would say, understand a little bit, how to work with that, like experiment systems a little bit, at least if we're talking about LLMs. Most of those programs that I was talking about are based on LLM use. So, something that is accessible and most likely to be deployed in organizations. Get to know that, get to know the lingo, get to know at least like your way around in terms of like, like configuration and things like that. And you should be fine. But because it's not super advanced in a certain way, in the sense that we think that you come to us with like basic knowledge about governance and compliance, and now we want to walk you through, and it's a progressive one. So even if you're less knowledgeable, you will catch up throughout the certificate. And I'm stopping there.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's what was getting at is like you don't have to be an expert already.
Yeah.
That's why you're coming to us. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. We're going to end it right here. We're already at our time stop, so it must mean we had a great session today. Thank you so much, Dr. Lemieux. This has been an excellent presentation, and I would just like to end the broadcast at this point. So thanks again. This has been Knowledge at Noon. The AI imperative is now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.